Good afternoon, it's Margaret. Can you hear me?
Yes, Vice Mayor, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
So I thought she was gonna be upset.
Mayor, it's time.
I'd like to call this special meeting public hearing to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Donald Hewish,
Here.
Mayor Potempo Martin Morales,
Present?
Councilmember Mitch Lindeman,
Here.
Councilmember Dania Costa, Councilmember Ray Shelton, Councilmember Michael Bondanegro,
Present.
Councilmember Jose Grijalva,
Here.
City Manager Ana Urquijo,
Present.
City Attorney Dennis Fitzgibbon,
Present.
City Treasurer Luis Pedrosa,
Present.
and Mayor, for the record, Councilmember Shelton, Councilmember Acosta, and Alma Andrade are excused.
Thank you very much. Item number 3, persons wishing to address the council in writing or verbally on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any?
I have that.
Anything? Thank you. Item number 4, final budget adoption public hearing. Item A, the purpose of the public hearing is to allow public participation regarding the final budget adoption for fiscal year 2023, 2024. Any members of the council would like to lead off or members of the public, please feel free to come and again, state your name. We'd love to hear from you. Give it one more call. Move on to item number 5, adjournment. May I have a motion?
Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Alba, second by Mr. Lindeman to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? The ayes have it. We stand adjourned at 5:20.
Mayor, it's time.
I'd like to call this special meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Donald Hewish,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tempore Margaret Morales. Councilmember Mitch Lindeman. Councilmember Danya Acosta. Councilmember Ray Shelton. Councilmember Michael Valdenegro. Councilmember Jose Grijalva.
Here.
Manager Ana Urquijo. City Attorney Dennis Fitzgibbons.
Present.
City Treasurer Luis Pedrosa.
Present.
And Councilmember Morales. And for the record, Mayor, Councilmember Shelton, and Councilmember Acosta, and Alma Andrade are excused.
Thank you. We'll have Councilmember Morales can fix our technical difficulties to get in with us. Item number 3, persons wishing to address the council in writing or verbally on any item not on the agenda. Do we have anybody? Thank you. Item number 4, discussing decision on approvals. Item A, resolution number 23-1557, a resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, adopting the city of Douglas budget for fiscal year 2023, 2024. Mr. Kiko, please.
Mayor, members of the council, before I turn this over for a presentation by Ms. Martinez, our finance director, I just want to say we present here a balanced budget this evening for final adoption in the amount of $71,735,643. That is a change, a decrease in about $555,000 roughly from your tentative adoption last month. And we will go over the reason for that in our presentation. But I just want to state that this budget sets the tone again for a very positive financial position for the city. It comes with a recommendation of our finance committee. I'm very proud of the team that we put together to make all of the recommendations and go over everything with a fine-tooth comb. Remained with our practice for conservative projections, but very courageous packages in terms of our grant package and our capital projects package. It's also filled with ways to preserve our recruitment and retention efforts and employee centric in terms of trying to keep salaries at market rates, inclusive also of a 2% cost of living adjustment and a one-time distribution later in the fiscal year. So with that, I just wanted to present the highlights and again say this is a solid package, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Martinez, our finance director, for a quick summary of the changes from tentative to now as a final adoption.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council.
Yes, sir.
There we go. As Mr. Urquijo already stated, we have some changes from the tentative adoption from the month of June until now, and I will highlight some of those changes. As city manager already stated, we received news that we were going to receive $647,131 less than anticipated for state shared revenues, out of which $555,638 affect the general budget directly. The rest is affects our HERF funding. How do we bridge that gap? Some of the recommendations we're making to mayor and council tonight is the elimination of the debt service for our asphalt plant, which knocks out $211,000 from the general fund expenditures. There are some plans to still buy asphalt from a contractor out of Sierra Vista to continue our streets projects. But again, we're going to put a pin on that asphalt plant for this fiscal year. We're also recommending postponing the hiring of of new general fund personnel requests that were made until January of 24. That will generate savings of roughly $300,000 to the general fund. The other big change from tentative to final adoption tonight is we also received notification we were not awarded the RACE grant, which was 15 million that we had allocated as spending authority. That is not going to happen this fiscal year. However, we are leaving 5 million as a placeholder in case other opportunities do come to fruition during the fiscal year. Some minor changes, eliminated $15,488 related to our housing program, which is now being handled by the county. We were carrying over 23,500 for a wastewater plant to buy a AC unit for the oxidation ditch electrical control room. That is a carryover from fiscal year 23. That was originally designated for a walkway. And last but not least, also, we are eliminating $63,500 for an IT lease reimbursement, which we were able to capture and complete before the end of the fiscal year 23. So that's no longer going to happen in fiscal year 24. So that brings us to our new balanced budget of $71,735,643.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. May I have a motion regarding the resolution, please?
Mayor,
Yes,
Mayor.
Mr.
I move that the mayor and council approve resolution number 23-1557.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lindeman, second by Mr. Grijalva to approve resolution number 23-1557. Discussion and questions from the council, please.
Mayor,
Yes, please, Mr. Grijalva.
I just want to make it publicly known that this is the first time since I've been here that council was not in the budget meetings. We usually have been. So what we found out is DPD asked for 4 more cops. We don't have money for that. We never had money for a sprinkler system at the fire department. They had to get that through grants. For employee appreciation, we can't cater for them. We have to buy them food, and then they have to grill it themselves, even for those at City Hall. The asphalt plant, I mean, that was something that we would have been excited for because that puts us in control of our streets. We can fix our own streets because of the asphalt that we have there. Now now we have to depend on a private company that's they have leases or relationships with other cities. So we might be, delaying in some projects, and also raising raises to bring the employees to market value after inflation sooner rather than later. But we do have money for an economic development firm while we have a staff department. I was notified on our jobs page that we are looking for a tourism coordinator when we thought we had one already. And we raised the council projects line item by $100,000. So we have money for that. I don't think this is too council heavy. I think council should be sharing in if you want to call it the growing pains of this budget. So I'd like to make a motion to amend the budget by replacing this current budget with the original budget and funding the $555,638 shortfall with the funds of the $400,000 and the council line item and the remaining $155,638 from our reserve funding.
We have a motion to amend on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Grijalva, second by Mr. Baldanero to amend the budget as stated. Questions or discussion?
Mayor, I have questions just to clarify because we have to also make sure that we are not balancing the budget with monies that are in our reserve fund, as it was mentioned. It has to be operating funds. So I would need time to kind of assess what was just stated to make sure that that was actually what we are recommending. And asking staff here to also see if that's what was implied. And going back to the original current year budget, is that correct? Is that what I
The
understood?
first budget that we were presented before the amending. Before the shortfall. The first one.
Oh, I see. Okay, so the 555,000 impact from the general fund, we need to be able to take that from operating budget funds, not from our reserve fund or our cash in the bank. And we can go over details on why we did that, but that's the reason we had to move from our operating expenses and revenue estimations. Can't take that from kind of our cash balance or reserve. One-time purchases, one-time capital projects, one-time distributions. We can do that, but which is why we eliminated the recommendation on the asphalt plant, was to reduce the debt service that would have been part of the operating budget, which could be done, and delaying, and not, it wouldn't have to delay all of the 6 months for the limited status positions, but we would monitor vacancy savings along the way to be able to do that. But I can't make a recommendation to balance the budget using one-time monies. If that's needs to be clarified, Mr. Pedrosa, you can help with that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Urquijo, Mayor, members of council. According to our financial policies, we cannot, we do not balance our budget in the general fund utilizing reserves for operational expenses. Certainly, like you mentioned, one-time expenses like capital and one-time payouts, bonuses, and things like that certainly do qualify according to our policies and procedures.
But I believe, Mr. Grovel, you mentioned a couple of line items that you were suggesting of where it might come from. Did I understand that
Yeah.
correctly?
The council budget and the reserve.
The reserve is the one that's not operational. The council budget could, would be considered an operating line.
Mayor,
Yes, please, Mr. Grovel.
I just don't think it's fair that we're cutting or needed personnel and just waiting until the middle of the fiscal year. Like I said, this is my frustration. We were not included in the first budget talks to help out with the budget. At least we were in Zoom at some point last year and then 2 years ago. And then when the shortfall happened, this is a decision that we make, that we also make, and we were not included in that. With all due respect, the same people who budgeted with the shortfall now are making the decisions on how to fund it. And again, it doesn't seem like City Hall's suffering. It seems like the blue collar worker, the departments that work hard, the backbone of our city are the ones that are going to get these cuts. So I know it's policy, it's policy, not law. So it's our own policy. I say we make an exception for that. And then next year, we're a little bit more careful with the budget process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor,
Yes, please, Mr. Lindsay.
that sounds nice and everything, but I don't believe it's prudent to dip into reserves. That's like the rainy day fund, and it's not raining. And I think the finance department worked really hard on this to bring most of everything that we wanted to fruition in this budget. And so I think it stands the way it is. The finance committee went ahead and approved the changes that we implemented, and I wouldn't want to see those backtracked. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. Anyone else? Yes, please, Mr. Valdenegro.
With the sale of the airport, if it becomes reality, we'll have money, right? Or we can use that money.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Pedrosa, please.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Valdenegro, those proceeds are being budgeted in this budget for capital improvements going back to the airport.
Just back invest into the airport.
That's correct.
Would you please, if I could, please talk a little bit more about the delay in the asphalt plant debt service. As far as it appears from the language that you submitted was that we probably wouldn't be ready, wouldn't be complete to do our research to make sure that it's a successful purchase. Is that accurate or please?
Mayor, members of the council, that is correct. We went back to see where we could have minimal impact, and some of the areas for the asphalt plant, there's still much to do to be prepared to actually be ready to run our own asphalt plant. And that would have been delayed anyway through the majority of this fiscal year. So we thought it was prudent to also pilot for ourselves how much we can do by purchasing asphalt, as many other small towns are doing, and do our own work, trying to get back into the swing of things from an asphalt operation, which has been dormant for some time because of the problems with our own asphalt plant. So I think this was our recommendation. Also, we had some money set aside, $438,000 to put into a down payment for that financing of the plant. That will be freed up also as one-time monies to be able to purchase more asphalt and help us along with our paving programs more effectively as well. So there was good thought process into that. And as for the 9 positions for general fund purposes, I had mentioned 12 earlier, but they're 9. They are added positions absolutely in areas that we need them. That's why we recommended them, but they will be brought in as soon as the vacancy savings balances allow us to feel like we're okay and not going over budget. So those were the 2 areas, the rationale for that, in being that if we had to finance that, it would take time. There's still steps we can take to continue to proceed to prepare for that ultimate purchase, but it also allows us a time to analyze and assess for ourselves what we can actually gain and do with purchasing of asphalt or even contracting out some of the smaller projects.
I would agree, Mr. Gruhal. I think that the asphalt plant has always been a priority for me to do that. So that's a little concern, but if we're not ready, we're not ready. I don't want to buy something that's not adequate for our needs. And so I think that's what I want to get more comfortable with on as far as the delay. Is it a delay that would take the entire fiscal year? Or is it a delay that we would be ready in March versus January?
Mr. Pedrosa, do you have an indication of the delay timeframe or the period for being ready for an asphalt plant?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. I think in our research, what we found out is that basically we wanted to be a little bit more comfortable. Our current asphalt plant, by the way, is working right now, but it has its ups and downs, and it's finicky. It just requires maintenance. It's not a very fluid piece of machinery that can just put out the quantities and the quality, which is very important when you put out quality asphalt out there. So in operating an asphalt machine and the research that we did, it requires maintenance. It requires more personnel to run the machine. It requires actually more personnel to be out there laying down that asphalt. So we felt that in talking to other cities that which is Bisbee, Sierra Vista, the county, they decide to contract that out, and they do more asphalt work than us because again they didn't want to deal with that with those circumstances of not being sure that I can produce a quality product and not having the right personnel behind that. So they decide to put that on a contractor that has to give you a quality product, has to give it to you with what you're buying. And we said, that's what we need to try this fiscal year. Have some monies available for us. Let us do some of that work, see how far we get with that. But certainly, Mayor, yeah, we wouldn't recommend such an expensive piece of machinery to be bought and not have the quality resources behind it to do that. As far as time frame, I think I would say that let's see how we do with this contractor furnishing us asphalt. I think we've done some patchwork around the city. I don't know if you've seen that, but I think we've been doing fairly well with the output that we've been getting right now. So I think by purchasing, I think we can do a little bit more out there and save on labor costs from a contractor.
Thank you, Mr. Pedrosa. Mayor, members of the council, there is another thing we can also consider. We do keep a line item called Vision 2032 for mayor and council projects within our priorities. We like to make sure that you have that for some of our larger areas and priorities. So if we do get to the point where we're ready to finance, that could be freed up, because really the debt service that's being relieved by this adjustment is only I shouldn't say only, but in the context of a $71 million budget, it is $211,000. And I believe Vision 2032 has an excess of 280,000 currently. So we could continue to monitor it, use that as a plan B if we're ready to move on the asphalt plan within the fiscal year, make sure we take steps, gives us some opportunities to try and also pilot the programs with purchasing of asphalt.
Thank you. Mr. Boldonegro, please.
Yes, Mr. Pedrosa, 9th Street, the work that's being done right now, if it's been completed, I'm not aware of it because I haven't gone up there. What's the cost of that project?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Boldonegro, we are working with our company who has put us basically on the back burner to get that supply. So we haven't finalized costs yet. What we did was prep the street so far, and we've laid some asphalt down in some problem areas that need to be covered. But the entire cost, we will get that to you.
Because I believe we allocated $2 million for asphalt. Finance budget for this year, but
Mr. Boldonegro, that was a financing, so that's basically
purchase.
borrowing money, and we had put in $211,000 to pay the debt service for the purchase of that asphalt plant. But what Mr. Urquijo mentioned earlier is that we had set aside about $438,000 as the down payment towards that, and those $438,000 can be utilized for road work. But yeah, certainly 9th Street is going to be a chip seal candidate area. That's an area that's something that our forces can handle. But certainly these are the challenges that we face, is that when we order oil, it's just we're in line and competing against other entities, other agencies ordering that oil to come down. So certainly those are things that we're used to, but it kind of delays it sometimes. So, but we should be able to get you some cost projections.
Mayor, Councilmember Morales.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay. Ms. Morales, please.
Mayor, yes, I have to agree with Mr. Lindeman. I believe the Finance Committee and Mr. Martinez and Mr. Pedrosa and Mrs. Urquijo have done an excellent job. I respect Mr. Grijalva's concerns, but I feel that these concerns could have been addressed earlier or brought to council's attention, and not today when we have to approve the final budget by the end of the month. So I would like to say that we need to move forward, and we will take advisement from Mrs. Urquijo and Mr. Pedrosa. I mean, they know the work that needs to be done, and that's all I have to say. That I just feel that we should go ahead and proceed with adopting this budget for fiscal year 2024. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. Also, a reminder on the $100,000 that was put in and labeled as miscellaneous council projects. If you remember properly, that was because the council was concerned about the possible need of public safety vacancies for annexation. So that's in there as a tentative, not necessarily for council projects. I think the name of it's kind of a misnomer, but that's why that was added in there, which of course is one thing that could easily be taken out, but I think that was the consensus of the council at the time when we originally discussed the budget. Anyone else? Okay, we have an amendment on the floor right now to essentially, and correct me, Mr. Grijalva, if I misstate this, to go back to the original proposed budget that was proposed to us on, was that 2 weeks ago? Help me out, somebody.
The tentative budget adoption?
The tentative, so
The June regular meeting.
to go back to the tentative budget numbers. And recouping some of the shortfall through council projects, is that correct, Mr. Grijalva, along with, what was the, and you said reserves,
Yes, sir.
I believe. Okay. That's the amendment on the floor. Good, and that's all we're voting on right now, is the amendment to see what will be part of the overall motion to adopt the budget. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lindemann,
No,
Councilmember Valdenegro,
Yes.
Councilmember Grijalva,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tempore Morales,
No,
Mayor.
The mayor votes no, so the motion fails. Back to the original motion to approve resolution number 23-1557, adopting the fiscal year budget for 2023, 2024. Any further discussion or comments on that?
Mayor,
Yes, please, Mr. Lindemann.
I'd like to take this time to thank the Finance Committee for their time commitment to review the budget and recommend to the council, and also to the Finance Department for their diligence and creating this. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindemann. Anyone else? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Lindemann,
Yes,
Councilmember Valdenegro,
No.
Councilmember Grijalva,
No.
Mayor Pro Tempore Morales,
yes,
Mayor.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 4B, discussion decision on contract award to KE&G Construction, Inc. for the repair and paving of Washington Avenue at Hohokam Drive. Mr. Pedrosa, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is an area that requires some attention. Right in front of the Huber Middle School. We redirected the flow of water, which basically doglegged from Hohokam, and then it had to dogleg north and then capture the channel there. Instead, we're directing the flow directly to go from Hohokam onto the detention basin. So that work's been done. Now we have to slope that asphalt to drain towards that drainage channel and basically get some asphalt in there. We've asked KE&G for a quote to do a 3-inch mill and overlay. We figured that 3 inches would be better to address the water that flows through there. So just getting a better solid foundation there. The cost to perform this work, and this work would repave from Applewhite down a little bit past Hohokam Avenue on Washington. It's a fairly wide street on 3-inch mill and overlay, and a little bit of Hohokam just to make sure that it's all nice and smooth. So fixing that problem area, I think one of the ideas is for us to go in and do the rest of the work. That's nice and flat. That's within what we can do. So certainly we wanted to just get some some contractors to come and do that sloping for us, get that blade work that it's out of our wheelhouse to handle. But yeah, again, addressing this important work, we plan to have if approved, of course, a pre-construction meeting with the contractor on Monday. And since they'll be doing Fifth Street, we can certainly we'll be saving some cost on mobilization as a result of that, and do these projects potentially back to back. Work with the schools since there's plenty of traffic there that happens. We'll work with the contractor, what's the best traffic control methods there, and make sure that we communicate with the schools, and the schools helps us out with the traffic or the parents to receive that message. So this project will be funded out of the $700,000 that was actually just approved in this year's budget. So we recommend that we move forward with accepting the contract with K&G for this work.
Thank you. May I have a motion regarding the contract award?
Mayor,
Mr. Lindeman, please.
I move that the mayor and council approve the contract award to KE&G Construction Incorporated for the repair and paving of Washington Avenue at Hohokam Drive.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Any questions or discussion?
Is there another, Mayor?
Yes, please, Mr.
Is
Valdenegro.
there another contractor up that bid for this position, for this job?
Mr. Valdenegro, certainly we could. What we utilize is a cooperative agreement with the city of Yuma to get pricing for this. Again, we figured the savings in mobilization costs from another contractor would be gained by basically having K&G already on the ground here on Fifth Street. So we basically have K&G with a pricing that doesn't include those costs.
Mr. Pedrosa, with the company being here, is it going to be big enough to handle both jobs at the same time? Or is it going to be after Fifth Street is complete that they're going to be tackling Washington?
Mr. Valdenegro, what we anticipate is that most likely will be after they complete Fifth Street, which is scheduled to be about 3 weeks time to complete that. And this project also be around the 3-week time frame to complete.
Anyone else?
Mayor,
Yes, please, Mr. Grijalva.
how long have we known about this project? As far as, I mean, we're voting on it now, but when did this become a thought?
Mr. Grijalva, we started this project, I believe, in the spring. Yes, in the spring, we started to do that work ourselves. We basically, like I said, we redid that drainage. We did some curbing and sidewalk. And basically once we knew that it needed that sloping and we knew we couldn't handle it, we thought it was best that we seek a contractor to handle at least that portion of the project, and we can handle probably paving the rest or chip sealing the rest. So that's kind of how that kind of unfolded.
I just my thoughts here. I mean, if we knew about it all the way back then, and I know it's a few months, why wait until this budget when school's going to start on one of the busiest schools? And I mean, Washington takes up Huber's entrances. If we would have done it when it was summer, when there's no school, we could have even used the ARPA funds because those are non-restrictive. So I don't understand, if we had the money, why are we waiting now when school's going to start, when parents are going crazy, dropping off their kids and having to go to work? The timing for me is inconsiderate. We need to be considerate of the parents, of the schools. We just can't say, well, we're the city, we're going to do this project now, you have to cater, to what we need. No, we need to take our community into perspective here. And I mean, it's needed, but the timing is just way wrong for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Grijalva.
Mayor, if I may clarify a couple points, please.
Please.
I believe that also, not only is it funding from a new fiscal year using our HERF funds, last year our HERF funds had been depleted. Not that we could have used something else. I'm not contesting that, but I think also part of the challenge is as we have been working on asphalt projects overall from a bigger phase in terms of projects, we came across other vendors that could help us on some of the smaller projects. So the big project we have for the fall at the airport revealed, we're working with a certain vendor, but also revealed some other options. And your recent approval at the last meeting for KENG to do Fifth Street gave us kind of that next step on letting us request a quote also for some of the much needed projects. So timing is very important. Yes, and that is a concern because we were not able to use these funds within that time frame, but we also didn't have that access to those quotes until we went through all of those other asphalt processes, which were quite extensive, working at the state level as well.
Thank you. And anyone else?
Mayor, we
Yes,
realize the disturbance there in that area, but we'll make sure to speak with the contractor to make sure that there's still traffic flow happening through it. We've had experience in having to close down Washington, and it wasn't at all something that we enjoyed by all means, but certainly we were able to manage through that. And I think we also thought about the traffic, how at the beginning of school, it's really, for some reason, it's really heavy at the beginning of school. Then as things start to progress throughout, maybe a month or two, it starts to kind of normalize a little bit, but still kind of be on the, it's still traffic, of course, but certainly taking that into account and putting it not right at the beginning of school, but I would say about 3 weeks after that could potentially help a little bit. But certainly I hear the concern there.
Thank you, Ms. Pedrosa. Anyone else? I would agree in a perfect world, the timing could have been better. However, I think I would hate for anybody to think that we're just doing this because we think we can without regard to people's needs. And I would hope that's not what we're portraying, and I don't believe that's what we're portraying. So I think we're going to do the best we can in the situation that we have. Or I guess we could go back to the old true agricultural school schedule and not start till after September and
Oh, that would work. Mayor, if I can just make a
Please, Mr. Linda.
quick comment. Regarding the traffic patterns, it's busy for probably 15 minutes. And then everybody goes, the kids are dropped off, parents go to work, and then it's normal. So I don't see how that could be really a problem. And like Mr. Pedrosa said, we work through it. So I think that's kind of an issue that takes care of itself.
In a perfect world, we shouldn't have.
Perfect world, we'd have all kinds of money to do our streets, but thank you. Mr. Linda. Anyone else? Thank you. Roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry. The motion is that the mayor and council approve the contract award to KENG Construction Incorporated for the repair and paving of Washington Avenue at Hohokam Drive. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lindemann,
Yes.
Councilmember Montenegro,
Yes.
Councilmember Grijalva,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tempore Morales,
Yes,
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 4C, discussing decision on authorizing the acceptance of a proposed scope of work from Stantec Consulting Services in the amount of $292,476 $1,076.91 for the preliminary engineering 60% design of the water, wastewater, and broadband conduit design for West Douglas expansion. Mr. Pedrosa, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the council knows, we have finalized the 30% design for the water, sewer, and broadband conduit for the west expansion is what we're calling it. Basically servicing the port, the new commercial port of entry, as well as other entities, potentially Cochise College, Border Patrol Station, and other future developments out there. So certainly this is our first step here, entering into contract with Stantec, who performed the 30% design. Mayor, we had to break this contract up in 3 different sections for the 60% as a result of our granting agency asking us to, not asking us, but because they could only fund certain tasks within the 60%. So we basically broke up a preliminary engineering side that will be funded by the NatBank, then another preliminary engineering portion that will not be funded by the NatBank, which is the contract before you. But however, this funding will come from the state ARPA funds that is eligible through that grant that we've already received, as you recall. And then the third component of this 60% is the actual final design task that will come to you at a later time. We still haven't finalized that scope of work, but certainly this is an exciting step that the city, now takes on the first contract here for this project. As mentioned before, the 30% was on the Cochise County side. They put in those funds for this contract, but certainly we have a timeline to meet, as you are well aware, that the port of entry is slated to be constructed in 2028, and those permanent water and sewer facilities have to be there ready to serve them. Certainly continue with the design is that important step in that direction.
Thank you. May I have a motion regarding the authorization?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Ms. Morales.
I move that the mayor and council approve the acceptance of the proposed scope of work from Stantec Consulting Services in the amount of $292,476.91 for the preliminary engineering 60% design for water, wastewater, and broadband conduit design for West Douglas expansion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Morales, second by Mr. Baldanegro to approve the acceptance of the proposed scope of work from Stantec Consulting Services in the amount of $292,476.91 for the preliminary engineering 60% design for water, wastewater, and broadband conduit design for the West Douglas expansion. Questions or comments, please?
Mayor,
Yes, please, Mr. Corrado.
I know we've used Stantec a lot from what I can remember from, contracts and all that. Are they the cheapest that we've had as far as the cheapest contract that we could have accepted?
So, Councilmember Grijalva, how this started is Stantec master planned the whole area. They were contracted by Cochise County to do that off of a Tucson contract, which is what we're doing today. So we get those discounted rates from them. They did that procurement. The Cochise County also procured for the 30% design for that. Not selecting them for the 60% design would create a whole new list of costs added to that, because that would a new firm would have to basically start over to do that. So we're basically continuing that project using Stantec to be able to finalize the entire design. So are they the cheapest? Again, I think we got when Tucson went out to bid, they got the most qualified contractor to do this type of work. So we are getting the most qualified contract for this type of work, and at a very, very favorable rate, I think, because when you go out to bid, you have to basically compete it out with other contractors.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Oh, Mayor, I just
Oh,
wanted,
please,
I just wanted to answer that because it was mentioned with policy about using reserves. I know that when we have a bid, we usually go with the lowest bid. That's city policy. So I was just wondering if they did the master plan and they gave us a master plan, maybe we could have contracted somebody else and said, this is the design we want. And it could have, I mean, we didn't have to incur those costs. It's just, it just seems that when we keep using the same company, when it's government, a lot of the times they raise their rates because they know that we're going to be paying them. So I think we have to be careful about that. Thank you, Mayor.
thank you. And again, this is based on a already properly procured policy under state regulations out of the city of Tucson.
Out of the city of Tucson, and those rates, are what they are. They cannot change because we're contracting them. They basically are of that original bid. Yes.
Just as the previous one for pavement was out of a Yuma contract.
That's correct.
So not reinventing the wheel per se. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah,
Yes, please, Mr. Bodenegro.
since we awarded, I'm talking about the one for KNG and service, the contract. So we awarded that contract when we do Washington Avenue first instead of First Street. Since they're gonna be here.
I'm sorry, I don't know. Are we talking about
Point of order. I don't think it has to do with this line item. I think it was already voted on and,
Right.
and,
But you can suggest that staff look into that possibility. Just contact Mr. Kiko, say you'd like to look at that and that will happen. Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, roll call please.
Councilmember Lindeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Bandenegro,
Yes,
Councilmember Grijalva,
yes,
Mayor Pro Tempore Morales,
Yes,
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, motion carries. I appreciate the progress that's being made in these areas. As we remain positive, I think we'll be able to further the work in the city even more so. So I appreciate that, and making progress is important. But also valuable questions to make sure that we're doing it the right way. Item number 5, adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Calva, second by Mrs. Morales to adjourn the meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? The ayes have it. We're still adjourned at 6:17 PM.